So we're here to talk about today, it's kind of scary times as we're looking at our budgets and what's taking place in the world with COVID. So we're really happy to share our expertise today. Ryan is totally awesome. He is actually the senior new business specialist for Charter School Capital. When he's not helping schools receive the resources they need to help your students succeed, he's helping his own students as he's coaching various sports. So appreciative of that all that he does. Jim is our YouTuber. He is our podcaster. He's our videographer. If you go on YouTube, if you go on to Vimeo, all of our videos are done by Jim. So he's absolutely amazing. He's our product evangelist as well. When he's not helping schools streamline their HR and business processes, he's busy, believe me, practicing his ambidexterity as well as urban rail walking. So take a look at that. Both absolutely amazing. Talk about well balanced, absolutely. So I'm going to turn the time over to Jim and to Ryan to go ahead and lead us through funding for charters and COVID. Oh my.
All right. Cool. Brian, thank you so much. And update, I actually learned how to juggle today. I'll just show you a video later on about that. But I appreciate the introduction. I know we're excited to be here. It's been great doing these webinars with Helios and speaking with our current and prospective partners on a daily basis to just find out what's going on with charter schools around the country. And, when discussing the current challenges with these folks, one resounding comment comes up now more than ever, and it's that we can't make any new purchases right now through COVID. And, our job is to look for solutions for these folks to their problems. And I've learned there's a lot of uncertainty out there as well as a lot of information floating around. So, if you're lucky, you and your team will have found working solutions to some of these issues. Now, I'm a paperless solutions guy, and I can tell you all day about streamlining your K-12 HR and business into the best system you've ever had. But if, as far as finding the funding solutions for these charter schools, that's where I'm not quite the expert. But we here at Helios, we do know the folks over at Charter School Capital are. So, we're excited to have Ryan Eldridge here today, who, like Brian mentioned moments ago, is passionate about helping charter school leaders fulfill their dreams through his position at Charter School Capital. So thanks so much for being here with us today, Ryan.
Yeah, Jim, thanks. I really appreciate you having us, and great working with you guys so far and partnering on different schools and the needs they have. So great to be here.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. So, Ryan, please first tell us just a brief bit about Charter School Capital and what a typical day is like for you there, that, just sharing some of the good news of the work that you folks do to help charter schools at this time.
Yeah, Charter School Capital is basically a specialty finance company dedicated to the charter space specifically. We're 100% charter focused, hence the name. That's all we deal with day in and day out. We've been around since about 2007 when we funded our first school in California, and basically looking to support charters regarding startup financing, growth capital, bridge financing. We also hold a pretty large portfolio of charter schools that we run and manage, where it's a facilities portfolio, so we have facilities financing packages as well. It's a national company. The idea is that, we're a partner that's trying to provide specific solutions to the specific charter schools we're dealing with. Not everyone fits in, the same box. When you look at charter schools, there's quite a spectrum of size and, missions that they're serving. So what we try to do is provide a customized solution to each charter school based on their needs. And, since that time, we've funded over 700 charter schools, about $2 billion in the industry, and serving over 1.25 million students in those schools. So again, the mission is to really support the charter space and grow that space. Myself, just a quick background is that I, started with the company over 6 years ago, about six and a half years ago now. I'd always come from kind of a business development background, but I'm also a parent that has 3 children, 3 different ages, girl and 2 boys. 3 different schools, different grade levels, different teaching methodologies from each, and then also at the same time, different learning styles from each. And as they started to progress from one grade to the next, I started to get more involved in which schools we were choosing for the kids to go to. And as I started to investigate the differences between the schools, I started to notice a lot of customized solutions and offerings that other schools may not offer. And with that, really became intrigued with the charter school space. And when I ran into Charter School Capital, combining the needs and the support that I can provide to companies, while also, again, seeing what great charter schools were doing out there, serving underserved communities, providing parents and students with student choice, parent choice of schools. Not everybody can afford the most expensive private school out there, but to have these charter schools that are free public schools providing this choice to the parents and students out there is an amazing accomplishment in all the work they do. So very passionate about what I do now. It's great work that they're doing. I don't think they get enough praise, and it's great to be out there working with them.
Cool. I can't agree more. So, I'm ultimately, we have some questions here for you. We definitely want to pull from your expertise on all of this. And so just to set the stage for, currently understanding where our charter schools are at and related to their need for COVID related funding, I'm going to show a short video testimonial from 2 of our partner charters as they tell us just what they've been going through. So I'll play the first brief video and then we'll get into some questions. So sound good?
Yeah, really good. Okay.
All right, cool, perfect. So our first Zoom testimonial is from Camino Nuevo Charter Academy. They're a phenomenal charter school out of Los Angeles, California, and they've been partners with us at Helios for the last 12 years. So you'll be hearing from Margaret Domingo, who's the Vice President of Human Resources, and she's been at Camino Nuevo for the last 16 years. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, and we'll get into Margaret's video. Our first question, what's been your biggest funding challenge since COVID started?
For Camino Nuevo specifically, and I believe for all charter schools, I think our biggest issue or our biggest funding challenge was the fact that we didn't receive our statutory COLA of 2.3% this year. I think a bigger challenge for us also this upcoming year is that about 40% of our LCFF funding will be deferred this upcoming year. And so it's, they've made a commitment for us to be fully funded, but when 40% of your income is being deferred and we don't know when we're going to get it, that's where the problem is. And I think that's where a lot of schools will struggle.
What are you doing now to prepare for those deferrals coming next year?
Well, some of the things that we put in place, I'm really proud of the fact that Camino started early. When we started our budget process in April, where we had these 5% cut projection, 10% cut projection, and 15% cut projections. And within those projections, we were able to calculate how many furloughs and whether or not salary freezes would come into play and how many RIFs we would have to make to make this budget okay. And so for this year, we landed on a 10%, but we cut 10% of our budget. We were also able, and that's a big part of it, we're 10 furlough days for everybody and salary freezes for everybody. And so that was a huge cost savings. And it was something that we did in collaboration with our union. And so our union was a tremendous partner in this. They knew how bad our budgets were. And because we made these budget cuts early, thankfully we didn't have to RIF anyone over the summer, which is what a lot of bigger districts are doing now. They're laying people off over the summer, which is difficult for folks. And so we didn't wait till the last minute. We actually prepared pretty early on in this process in collaboration with our union. And I think we have a pretty solid budget. We are hoping that when we do get all our funding, we're able to give our teachers and our staff back some of those furloughs and maybe lift the salary freeze mid-year. But right now, those are the two things that are really helping us sort of weather this storm.
What resources and tools has helped Camino Nuevo save time and money?
I think we in terms of the resources, we have an amazing CFO who is on top of it when it comes to money, and she's constantly working with different folks to try to make sense of the new budget revisions and things like that, and making sense of the funding and how it's going to work, how it's going to come in, when it's going to come in. And so I think she's done an amazing job of just staying on top of it and making sure that we're prepared. And I think in terms of tools is planning early, and because there was so much unknown in March and April. We had no idea how this was all going to play out. And so the fact that we planned early in collaboration with our union, really put us in a good place. And it was very much a collaborative effort. So at those budget meetings, you had HR, you had operations, you had, our CEO. I mean, there was about 6 different people in those budget meetings with each of our schools to make sure that we were making the right decisions for this upcoming year.
All right. So Margaret mentioned a few points there that I think will resonate with many of our charters here in attendance. And I think that Margaret and Camino Nuevo, they handle that situation like pros, maybe better than a lot of charter schools. So, really hats off to them. But she did mention in particular a few obvious setbacks: not receiving the statutory COLA at year end, and the LCFF funding deferral of 40%. Just Ryan, how typical of a situation, of a dilemma is this that Margaret is experiencing common to other charters right now?
Yeah, this is very common right now. This is a time unprecedented. I don't think anybody on this line has probably gone through something like this in their lifetime. We don't know. There's something else controlling our next move, and it's not up to us. It's up to the virus and kind of when we either get a vaccine or get it under control. And so it's constantly changing, both from a state funding level, federal funding level, community level, district by district, it's changing, and each district has its own rights to kind of dictate whether schools can open up as normal or if they're going to have to do hybrid or online learning. What I really took away from that, it was just proactive, early preparation, running multiple scenarios. I mean, like you said, obviously pros that have done this for a while, and they probably, I know that Camino Nuevo is a great organization and great schools and well run. Have the luxury of having that internal CFO that can run multiple scenarios. Keep in mind from state to state, from size of charter, some are smaller, startup schools, maybe one site, some are large CMOs on the other end of the spectrum with 20 to 30 schools under their umbrella. Each is going to have its own own amount of resources available to them, whether that's an outsourced back office provider that's running these scenarios for them, or a financial consultant that supports them, or if it's all internal. But again, I think, all you can do is prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And we're telling our schools right now to make sure that they have plan A, plan B, plan C lined up, because this could shift on a dime. What we know today and what we know the budget is today could, again, easily change come the end of August. Like, for instance, in California, the legislature's just coming back from session again. When they, before their resource, they had adopted, an actual budget the governor and the legislature agreed to, and it's in law. However, due to tax implications, not knowing what the tax revenues may be, necessarily what longer term issues could come down, we don't know if there couldn't be additional cuts or delays or, deferrals coming too. So you got to always be prepared. Fortunately, in Washington, D.C., for instance, they don't have to face the cuts or the deferrals like California does. They actually are probably going to stay steady, if not even have about a 3% increase in revenues. with some additional funds. Michigan, not really sure. I think they're probably staying a few, slight cut, few $100s, across the board. States like Arizona, kind of like unknown right now, where it might stay steady, still wondering if there's going to be any cuts. But California has a significant issue where they're going to have over 40% of their revenues deferred from February and May. And now talking about June, where those deferrals are actually going to be deferred several months, some of them 8-9 months out. And that's a big chunk of their revenue at the second half of the year. So how do you prepare for this? And so whether it's, you have heavy reserves, if you're, looking for alternatives to financing, just to make sure that you've got safety nets in place, plan A, B, and C. And that's all you can really do is just continue to prepare and run the what if scenarios. So.
Yeah. Well, and Margaret, she had mentioned something just as far as being proactive that last April, starting with the 5%, 10%, 15% cut projections. What would you suggest to the charter who hasn't done similar as of yet?
I would certainly start today. I would, run the scenarios. Now, fortunately, what Margaret was talking about was a couple months back when the budget was talking about originally like an 8 to 10% cut to the LCFF payments. What happened is, a month or two later, is that the governor adopted a different budget, which was in essence, instead of making immediate cuts, they decided to defer payments, which happened back in the 2008-2010 recession. And we saw this go on for several years where they continued to defer payments out several months, year after year. I don't know if one's better than the other. The cuts are sometimes a little easier to kind of predict and make sure that you account for them, and maybe you furlough teachers for certain days or have to make some cuts to deal with it. Deferrals are a little bit more complicated. They're ongoing, push outs of payments for several months. And then as one happens, this is just talking about fiscal 21. We know this is going to go on for multiple years, 2 years, 3 years at least, where these, as we kind of, in essence, kick the can down the road, if we don't make the cuts today and we defer payments in lieu of that, what happens on heading into fiscal 22? Are there more deferrals, or are there additional cuts coming down the road? So whatever you're going to do, is the reality is start planning today, because not only have to take care of the mindset of right now is just opening the doors to the school year. And Jim, right now, as I talk to school leaders, this is what's taking place, is in the mindset is I'm worried about right now. And I'm worried about opening the doors right now for this school year. And how am I going to communicate with my community, my parents, my students? What do I do about the students that I just took on? Because, there's another issue. Some states are very across the board, but like California, they're not going to get paid for the new students they bring on, even if they had anticipated growth. So how do I manage the ability to take on these new students that committed to my school, yet I know I'm not going to be paid for them? How do I manage all this? And so they have to worry about the immediate, but keep in mind the midterm, which is the deferrals coming in February, and then long-term, the progression into the next fiscal year. How do I manage all of this at the same time? So I feel for all the charter leaders out there. I feel for the parents. I feel for the students. I am a parent. I have 3 kids, and there's just so much unknown right now that all you can do is continuously analyze, look for different resources, plan, and hope that you can put some safety nets into place.
Yeah. It's difficult to disagree. And even thinking of just what Margaret had mentioned is when it does come to planning, that she had the fortune of just having an amazing CFO, but also able to collaborate early and plan with their union and most departments like HR, operations, the CEO. What additional practices and resources can help charters right now?
You always have to look at how you can, I think what ultimately happens is a lot of different people wear a lot of different hats in these situations. You really have to be able to communicate internally, be able to adjust on the fly. And, flexibility is going to be really, really big. I know our company internally, we were able to, from a standpoint of being an operational hub in Portland, Oregon, about 60 people in an office that collaborated every day, running from one part of the office to the next in Teams meeting, to all of a sudden being displaced and all working from home on an online platform. Yet we were able to be very, very flexible, utilizing the technology that's there and be able to communicate and still not miss a beat and still operate. In fact, we're probably busier now than we ever have been.
Yeah.
But, you know, the ability to adjust to a new lifestyle, a new format, and it is, you know, some people like it, some people don't. It is what it is. We don't really have control of this. And so you're going to have to adapt on the fly, whether you like it or not, and make the best of the situation. And so, again, I think, you know, they're really going to have to come together as a team, a unit. I would also say best practices is these charter leaders should reach across the aisle and start to talk to other charters to find out how are they handling it? What are they doing? What are the best practices that are working? What are the things that are not working? Because I do have to say this, the charter movement is resilient, and everything that they do from 3 to 5 year charter terms, getting approved, getting renewed constantly under the microscope, they're resilient. They just keep coming and they keep growing. And there's well over 1 million students on the waiting list across the country trying to get into these charters who are serving students better than their peers in the district run schools. And there's a reason there's a wait list, is because parents see the difference and they want to send their kids there. And all they can do is remain resilient and continue to fight the good fight, which is, you know, trying to serve these underserved communities and students and giving parent choice and student choice out there. And know that there's enough resources out there to back them and support them through these tough times, you know. And again, this is kind of, you know, the whole mission driven movement of the charter space. So.
Yeah. And you know, one thing I love hearing is just, like you mentioned, the charter school leaders just reaching across and connecting and having that chat. And, you know, one thing that I know, my partner, Brian, who introduced us, he leads a LinkedIn group for HR professionals. So, you know, we can certainly share some of that after for any folks who do want to connect with others, even in attendance today, just as an additional resource. And, you know, like I mentioned earlier, too, we have a second video to show. So, at this point, we'll be hearing from Luke Whitehead, who is the HR manager over at Summit Public Schools. And they're another phenomenal charter school, just like Camino Nuevo out of California. They're actually out of the Bay Area, Redwood City, to be precise. So I will go ahead and share my screen, and I will go ahead and show us this video. Our first question, what's been your biggest funding challenge since COVID started?
I think, as it has been with many school districts and charter schools, has been uncertainty about what the future holds. What we're expecting to see at the moment in one of the states that we operate in is roughly a 10 to 11% decrease in funding from what we originally anticipated, because we will be funded based on last year's enrollment numbers as compared to what we expected, which was including new student enrollments in our funding for next year.
What would you say you need funding for most right now?
I think just maintaining the status quo. We've had a lot of things that have been standard for us year over year that we are unfortunately unable to do in this coming year. And that has been difficult to message to employees, and difficult to handle on the back office side of things as well. So really, I think just like I said, trying to keep things running along the same as they were in previous years has been quite challenging.
Well, Luke, what would you say, what tools or resources have helped Summit save time and money?
You know, for me, in my role and in the things that I touch, it's been, Helios has been a huge help in getting our onboarding in some sort of order. At this time last year, we were tracking collection of documents through a Google Sheet that was shared across several people, and we were just not having the best time of it. But having our Helios representative work with us to connect to Greenhouse's API to automatically pull in and create new profiles for people and give those new hires a place to go to just upload all of their documents and keep everything in the same place and to self-track that's been a huge time lift off of our shoulders.
What's been your biggest? Okay, stop share there. And now Luke, along with Summit Public Schools, has been with us here at Helios as partners for the last 4 years now. Luke mentioned some great points as well, and just like Camino Nuevo, they've been handling it like pros. But I imagine that our charters virtually in attendance here, they can relate with a bit of what Luke had to mention. Uncertainty, the budget cuts of at least 10%, which we now understand this will be more of referrals as time is going on, and just a general sense of it's difficult to get the employees on board with the necessary adjustments. Just what would you say can help Luke's team feel more certain in this time, Ryan?
I think a lot of it goes back to maybe even what Margaret talked about, is where she had great leadership, great pre-planning, being very proactive. The challenge with the schools right now is not only do they have to communicate to the parents and the local community and the students and make them all feel comfortable, but internally they have to do the same. I mean, there's a lot of teachers out there that are dedicated entire lives of being, teachers and love their jobs, but it's going to be an unnerving time for them to come back into the classroom with so much uncertainty around the COVID situation, their own health being a concern. All those that work in the school building, administrative staff, support staff, facility staff, they've got to manage all of it. And so, from a school leadership standpoint, is I think the more that they can communicate and hold those meetings, with those who serve the students in the school, making sure they're feeling comfortable and able to kind of pursue what they do on a day-to-day basis in a normal atmosphere. It's going to be key is, again, to kind of have this communication system, a plan in place, how they're going to deal with the what ifs that occur. If the COVID system breaks out, if all of a sudden the virus hits the school and they have to shut back down again, what is the preparation and the planning for that? How do they handle it? How do they adjust back to a hybrid or an online model? So I think, again, it goes back to the proactive pre-planning, having multiple plans and scenarios run out. What if this happens? What if this happens? And that's all we can really do is just prepare for the worst. And again, hope that it doesn't hit like that. So,
yeah, being flexible as well.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and we're stoked that here at Helios, we get to hear that Luke and their team at Summit is saving a lot of time and resources as a result of using our product. But what other tips and tricks are helping charters right now in saving time and resources, and just how much of that has to do with the recently updated legislations?
Well, there's, quite a few things. So first off, from a financing standpoint, I'll kind of speak to what, we deal with the most, but, the PPP Act out there, where it's the small business loans, they put the PPP out, and many charter schools applied for it. Many received it, and many have already put it into good use. For those schools that may not have applied for it already, I would highly suggest that they do so. And the reason for this is I know that and I'm not a lawyer, I don't want to say that, from a legal standpoint that we're right, that they do have to check with their legal advisors. I know there's been some concern about taking PPP because of the perception from the outside that, schools are still being paid, so should they be able to take PPP? This is a federally, provided subsidy in a way, to schools to help and support these small businesses all over the country. 17,000 restaurants plus have shut down, and just imagine how many employees are in each of those 17,000 restaurants that are impacted by this. And they were provided this for a reason, is that they didn't have to fire these people or furlough them and be able to keep them on staff until this adjusted. Charter schools face a lot of challenges. Unlike a district school, they're not provided free facilities. They're not provided the access necessarily all the time to the low-cost county money or district money that they can access. They have a lot of other additional expenses that they have to pay for. They're like small businesses run by a 501c3, but they actually are managing like a business. Therefore, it's there for a purpose, and they shouldn't feel that way. If they haven't applied for the PPP, there's still money out there. They can still do that. The CARES Act out there for protective equipment, is another source of funds that they could get. The PPP could be a forgivable grant. At some point, it will transition from a loan into a grant. There's nuances of it and everyone's specific, but CARES on top of that can help with a lot of the protective equipment that they may need to open up safely and provide, the washing of classrooms or the separation of desks and how they're going to handle that aspect of it. But, search and uncover all the different types of grants and programs that they could possibly find. So talk to your county offices of education, see if they have low-cost funds. Talk to your local districts to see if they could support in a time of a cash flow crunch. Make sure you are reaching out and finding all of these resources in place and just doing whatever you can, leave no stone unturned, and just kind of prepare as best as you can is all I can suggest. So.
Yeah. And I know back in May, Helios, we did a webinar all about the CARES Act, and within there, we included some information on the GEER fund, the Governor's Emergency Education Relief, Project SERVE, SERV, another one, ESSER, ESSER, and then FEMA. So any updates regarding those since our previous webinar back in May?
No, other than they're still kind of out there available and to check into all of them. I know you threw out a lot of acronyms there as we do in the education sector. However, the reality is that's what I would say that there's no elimination of them necessarily. I think they're still available. It's a matter of just kind of, applying to all and checking into all of them. Any additional resources, funding, hopefully the federal government, there'll be another round of funding that could come through that could help support the schools and the education system through this. And, but we don't know. It's uncertain. So right now, all you can do is work with the information we have at hand right now. So. Yeah.
Understandable. Like you mentioned, it's challenging times, but thankfully we're able to hear from your expertise today and just all your knowledge and your experience in working with charter schools to help them. So, thank you so much for it. And in a moment, I'm going to hand the Q&A over to Brian. But before I do that, I do want to take a quick cruise over to charterschoolfunding.org and charterschoolcapital.org here and take a look at the website. And just please, Ryan, let us know from here what can we see from Charter School Capital, their website here. Let me bring this up. There we are. And I'll share my screen.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you checking over there. We try to be, during this time, we're not, always the right fit, nor do we think we are. We try to be a support mechanism for the charter space. So, trying to give more of a consultative approach to the financing. There's different people other than us that provide financing. And again, it's very specific to the specific schools. From our solution standpoint and our resources standpoint, I would direct you there. The solutions, just letting you know, outside of, growth capital, startup capital, bridge financing, kind of like the ability to finance all these deferrals and handle this. We've been through this before. We kept hundreds of charter schools afloat during the last recession in California. And we understand how to manage this. We have a very astute team, financial analysts and operational analysts that have deep experience in the charter school space to help you through specific issues. And we'd love to investigate them with it, the schools with them. But, we do facilities financing, we do enrollment marketing, paper performance type marketing, because right now the other part is, if you have a dip in enrollment, you're going to be hit on revenues. So rather than having to take on, some expensive marketing company and spend tens of thousands of dollars up front with the hope of a return, or having to hire an in-house staff member and again hope for a return, we have quite a bit of experience from digital marketing, social media marketing, enrollment marketing with all of our clients across the board, that we'll actually create a paper performance type enrollment marketing service, so that if we don't increase your enrollment, you pay nothing, but yet we'll do all the work and work with you from that standpoint. We have a deep team on that side of it. There's energy programs. We've partnered with different energy partners around the country to provide upgrades to schools. Right now, one of the hot items, just so you know, Jim, is clean air systems, is one of those protective measures that they're taking. The resources page is designed to provide just content. We have everything from ebooks, from charter ed talks that we have with special leaders on different subject matters. We have specific webinars that we've run several times. We try to be an informational platform to the charter space, from resources. So when you kind of get the emails that may go out to them, take a look. These are free. They can log on. They can access this information. It, goes into a deep dive into many different subject matters. Mm-hmm. So again, this is just a free resource that people can kind of poke around in there. And I would suggest, taking a look at that, because there might be something in there for them. So thank you. And
yeah,
I really
absolutely.
I really appreciate partnering with you guys too. You guys have been a great organization, and only great things I've heard from the clients that we've shared, and, from an efficiency standpoint, the ability to kind of manage the document flow,
Mm-hmm.
internally and externally with schools, I know is a huge relief and a huge help for the schools. So we appreciate you having us.
Yeah, absolutely, Ryan. Our pleasure. And again, we love knowing everything that you folks do at Charter School Capital, just knowing you need funds in order to accomplish your mission. So thank you for doing the work that you do. And, for anyone in attendance here today who is a K-12 HR and business professional, and you want to not only have the fastest operations that you can have, but the safest, whether you can access remotely from anywhere, check out our website, heliosed.com. You can read about the different modules that we do that's designed from hire to retire for everything from K-12. And you can read our success stories right here. Connect with us. We have a great brand new savings calculator that you can complete in less than 2 minutes, and it'll give you an idea of just how much money your school would save annually as a result of shifting your current operations to paperless. And also definitely connect with us on our next upcoming webinar, which will be on Thursday, August 6th. And we are going to do a deeper dive into our evaluation. So for especially any HR folks who have evaluations coming up, if you do them with paper, you're wondering just right now how to do it, come in and learn on August 6th just how to go ahead and do that paperlessly. So at this point, I think I'll hand it back over to Brian here for our Q&A. And please, any questions that you do have for Ryan and I, please right here. You have our emails, reach out to us. We'd be very happy to connect with you all.
Yeah, you got the picture of me without the beard before the COVID situation and the hibernation. Yeah.
We'll have to update it with the newest COVID cut.
Yeah, working from home, I think everybody's in the same boat. It's a little difficult to always
Agreed.
So, yeah, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. And you know what? You look good with or without the beard, Ryan. So whatever works best for you. Have a few questions here. One of which is, what kind of financings, this one's right to Ryan, what kind of financing solutions do you suggest for schools seeking to put their plans into place?
Good question. Again, it's going to always be very specific to the school, right? Every school is completely, not completely different, similar, but specialized. And so it's hard to say what, there's a one size fits all for schools, and I'll never suggest that. You really have to understand what they're trying to solve for first, and then apply the proper financing solution based on that. Sometimes the need is immediate. It's a short term. We need to make payroll, or we're short some money didn't come in, some revenues that we're anticipated didn't come in, and we need to make sure we have money in within the month. Two, you might have something longer term or midterm, maybe more of like a deferral situation. And, with that deferral situation, that you might have several months out. And so it's 4 to 5 months of payments that are a block of money that isn't going to show up. So it's a different application. Long term, hey, we're planning 2 years out, 3 years out. We're planning a facilities financing. There's a lot of different options. Schools will look at banks' lines of credit, loans, bond issuance sometimes. All of these are options. Keep in mind there's nuances of each, that could be applicable. I would say what you really, really want to focus on is the most flexible form of financing you can provide, meaning that you have the peace of mind of, I have this much capacity. And the greater the capacity, lines of credit sometimes can be limited to maybe a month's worth of revenues, or maybe a month and a half to 2 months of revenues. So what happens if I max out that line of credit? Then what do I do? So the problem being is that a line of credit, will lean all revenues and assets once it's in place. It often requires, a banking relationship, and to transfer all those accounts over to that bank as well, and then constant review. So, well, that's great if I have up to a certain amount, but if I max that out and I need more money, then what do I do? Because I can't go do other borrowing. So you got to be worried about being kind of locked into something that's committal, paying for fees. And, sometimes there's things such as trans or RANs. They're great if you can apply for them. At the same time, there's going to be a lot of legal underwriting fees, and again, kind of a commitment. So once you've gone into kind of a bond issuance or a RAN or TRAN, you can also be kind of locked into it. So we don't know if this economy is going to get any better over the next 2 to 3 years. So what you don't want to do is limit your capacity and access to capital, because money is king, but when you run out of it, it's painful. And so what you need to do is make sure that whatever form of financing constantly gives you this kind of rolling capacity flexibility of financing. And that's what we try to solve for here. Is I think, at Charter School Capital, we try to provide more capacity than any line of credit or loan or bond, very competitive rates. We also don't like to charge fees. We don't want to charge setup fees or program fees or origination fees, because the school needs to have the safety net in place. We just want to have just a one flat fee. That's it. They'll know exactly what they're paying for, and just pay for the money they use when they need it only. And so I would just say flexibility is the big answer to that one. But great question. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan. Also, if you have any questions, make sure you go ahead and type those in the bottom where it says Q&A. We get those answered for you. Here's another question for you, Ryan. I know this has to do with the CARES Act, the webinar that we gave that Jim spoke of, and that is, how do we get access to GEER funds?
That actually is kind of a question that I would have to look in from the legal team. I could handle that offline if somebody would like to kind of ping me on the rl.charterschoolcapital.org. I actually have some internal legal teams that can help you with as far as the access and the way to go through that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Somebody with a higher pay scale than I handles that. Yeah.
Jim, this was for you. In the sneak preview, I saw you have paperless onboarding. How long does it take to set that up?
Great question. For setup, it just depends on how many employees that you do have, but we can get your forms up and running. Again, it depends on the size of the school, but it'd be under a month that we can certainly do that. And it depends on just how accessible all the information is that we need from you as a potential partner. But again, like Ryan mentioned, please, you can email me, jim@heliosed.com, and we can certainly chat more about that.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. Back to Ryan. Ryan, what are schools most concerned with right now in terms of safety and communication? I know we talked a little bit about that. Is there anything else you'd like to share about safety and communication? communication, because that is or seems to be a huge concern right now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great question too. And I think it's over communication. I mean, first off, on the communication side is making sure that, you have a plan in place, whatever you can put on your websites, making sure that the parents are involved, they're reaching out to parents, those that have enrolled, those that have been ongoing students. Making sure you're communicating to the communities you serve about how you're going to serve the students, what plans and preparations you have in place, what backup plans you have in place, what the learning style could look like. Also inquiring and getting feedback from those communities. I think it's very big to kind of poll those communities, ask the parents what they're concerned about, ask what options they're looking for. There might be a lot of parents that are on edge and unwilling to send their kids to a site-based school right now and want to do strictly online learning only. And so you need to know what percentage of your student population would be willing to come back if they could go back, which is going to be strictly online and, who might be kind of a hybrid model. But right now, as it stands, a lot of the schools are just going to be forced to be online. So as much as you communicate there, safety measures, anything you can put into place, whether that's, the classrooms, that are separated desks and only 10 kids in a pod, kind of concepts, protective measures from wipe down cleaning products, masks that are worn, what happens if preparation in scenarios that if all of a sudden there was a COVID outbreak and how that communication takes place. There's a lot of measures that you can do to let the schools know that, and the parents know, and the students know that you're prepared and you're thinking about it and you're asking their opinion on it too. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan. Back to Jim. Jim, this one's for you. How can I learn more about going paperless? I love that one.
Yeah, visit us at heliosed.com. Connect with us. You'll see right there where the webinar sign up is. You can click a box right there for requesting a free demo. We have a lot of videos as well on YouTube and Vimeo, so you can see just what it all looks like and feels like. Definitely sign up for our upcoming webinar where we will dive deeper into the evaluations. And we've done deeper dives into most all of the functionality of Helios, where we'll have Adam Morello, our tech manager, will dive deep into all of this and show folks how to set it up, how it all works. So if that's something that you're interested in seeing, access to those deeper dive videos where you go really deep into it all, please email me, jim@heliosed.com, and I'll gladly get you set up.
Awesome, Jim. Thank you so much. And looks like one more question for Ryan. And if there's any more, please type those in. Ryan, what new safety measures have you seen schools take at this point that may require additional funding?
Great question. One of them, the most prominent one that's coming up through our energy partner BioStar, it seems to be across the board, and we put it into a few schools right now. And actually, we have a program kind of running, or outreach program running right now, which is air filtration systems. Our energy partner, we're not energy specialists, but we just partner with the best out there, hence why we go with Helios, is that we try to find the best in class out there. And so what they've done, BioStar Renewables actually does everything from solar power to HVAC systems to any kind of internal constructions, external constructions, they can do it all. One of their biggest drives right now is clean air. And they basically, what they have is ion tubes that actually get placed into the air ducts of the school, and it cleans 99.9% of the bad air in the school, the bacteria, so not only is this applicable to the coronavirus, but it's applicable to the typical situation during a normal school year. There's a lot of kids with asthma that, impacts attendance levels because they're having bad breathing problems. There are allergic reactions to some of the air. Flu season, typical cold season that again impacts the attendance. Well, these are negatively, positively charged particles, basically by the air filtration system. They can put these ion tubes in there, so as the air comes in and goes through the HVAC system, and it doesn't require a special HVAC system. Basically, they can just put these tubes in there, very cost effective. and they can clean the air ducts all the way through the entire school. On top of that, they can even provide monitors in every classroom and throughout the building, in every class or hallway, that will actually give readings about how good the air quality is. And so this will be huge for a lot of schools, site-based schools going back, particularly for the parents, knowing that they can actually walk into a building and see, what the air quality is like. And this has been a big driver, and that's because this thing is known to be potentially airborne. It makes a lot of sense is that as the HVAC system is either blowing out cool air or hot air, depending on where you are in the country, is that it's actually cleaning the air, circulating it at all times. So I would say that's the biggest one right now. And that is something that we can handle and put you in touch with too.
Okay, awesome, Ryan. Thank you so much. I surely appreciate everyone being here today with us. We'll make sure you get the link for this webinar as well, so you can look back at it. And if you missed something, you'll be able to get that when you see it again. Being proactive, I think that's the most important thing to do right now. Ryan talked about having a plan A, B, and C. Make sure we're communicating with our parents. Make sure we're communicating with our communities. He also mentioned the PPP loan. Be sure to check those out because August 2nd is a deadline for that, I believe. It was June something, and Trump actually extended that to August 2nd. So go ahead and take a look at that, as well as Ryan mentioned the CARES Act as well. Thank you so much for being with us today. Wait another second for any additional questions, and thank you so much for your time. We'll be seeing you soon. Thank you so much. Thanks, Jim, and thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate you having us, and thank you for all those that attended. Great having you.
Yeah, thank you all.